Everyone, it's Emily, welcome back on my channel. Today's video is going to be my top 5 favorite book that I read this summer. I know I'm late, I was supposed to post that like last month, but better late than never, and let's be honest, I personally really like watching favorites video, and even if they're a little late, there's still some of my favorite books that I've read so far this year, so I just wanted to chat about really good books. The first book will not come as a surprise. It's a Brandon Sanderson book. Like, every time I read one of his books, they just make it to my favorites list because they're really good. This one is Warbreaker, and I'm gonna try to not blind you, but this, as always, blew my freaking mind because of the world building, the magic system. It was just so interesting. And this one, I believe it's one of his first books, and it reads really well as a standalone. Actually, it was supposed to be a standalone at first, but there's a second one that's gonna be coming in the coming years. So, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be anytime soon, but still, it was amazing. Absolutely loved it. One of the characters was a god. Just cannot explain really the plot of this book really well. You just have to read it. But basically the magic system is linked to colors. Basically people just like absorb the colors of like clothes and things around them to just use their magic. And it was so good. I really enjoyed it. Please just read it. If you like Brandon Sanderson or anything that is fantasy, you just need to read this. I loved it. The next one was kind of a surprise a little bit, because I feel like YA can be hit and miss, especially on BookTube. A lot of like really popular ones are books that people used to love when they read them when they were younger. And then if you read them when you're an adult, you might not love them as much. But this one was absolutely amazing. One of my favorite like YA coming of age books that I've ever read. And it is We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. And this was absolutely mind-blowing. The only thing is, it was sold to me as there's a boy going through a lot in life, which true. And then in between all of these struggles, he's being abducted by aliens. So I went into it thinking it was a sci-fi. It's not a sci-fi, like barely a little bit. So just go into it thinking more like contemporary, a lot of like mental health struggle and just like hard family life. He's not really close to his family. His brothers are really always arguing. He's not super close to his mom. His grandma also lives with them, and she is starting to have like Alzheimer. And he's also going through a lot of personal struggle. His ex-boyfriend killed himself, and he's obviously struggling through that. And I just don't want to say more than that. I feel like it's a contemporary, so there's not like that much action that happens, but if you liked Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda, or even Aristotle and Dante discovers the secret of the universe, you need to read this one. I feel like this one is the best out of the three. It's definitely a little bit more serious, but I absolutely loved it. Obviously it made it to my top 5, but would recommend for sure. The next book that made it to my top 5 is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. And this book was awesome, super fast-paced. Like, you can read this book so quickly. There's like just over 300 pages, but most of it is basically like interviews and like journal logs, so very fast to go through. I haven't been lucky with that type of format in the past. I feel like some of them were really hit and miss. This one I just flew through it. It wasn't perfect, but I still just wanted to continue as soon as I was done with it, which I did. And FYI, if you haven't seen that video, do not get the second book as an audiobook. Just warning, because it was horrible. But the book per se is awesome. I cannot wait to continue like with the third books, which I cannot wait to just continue and like see where this is going. But basically, this one is pretty hard to explain, but it's a sci-fi where you're following a scientist that discovered as a kid a giant metal hand, and she just doesn't know what it is, and then later on in life she actually ends up working with it and trying to learn what it is, and then discovering things like that. I can't say more than that because the book is so short, but I really enjoyed it. It was really quick, fast-paced book, and I think a lot of people should give this one a shot. It was good. I was super excited to continue after reading The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chamber. I continued with the second one, which was A Close and Common Orbit. And I have to say, they were really different. I feel like this one is more of a companion novel, so I'm not like really spoiling anything if I mention what's happening in here. But the first book is basically like a feel-good sci-fi that is not action-packed, it's definitely character-driven. This one is no different, it's definitely even more character-driven. And you're following two different timelines. One of them being in the past, you see how a character became who she is now. And then the other character you're following is actually artificial intelligence, which is kind of the continuation of the first book, and it was really interesting. I feel like it's not something that a lot of people explore. Are robots or artificial intelligence worth their own person? Like, are they their own person? And it was really good. I liked it. Definitely an even slower pace than the first one, so if you're like someone that needs action, would not recommend this, but I really enjoyed it. The last one to the top 5 before I also mention a special mention was the biggest surprise ever. I expected to hate this book. I very reluctantly decided to read it. I read the first book, hated it. And then the second book, I did not hate, like, at all. I actually really enjoyed it. And if it wasn't for the awkward sex scenes, I would probably have given it like a almost 5 stars. Like right now I'm giving it a 4.5, which is really strong for A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I kept hearing everyone say that that was such a great fantasy book, the perfect second book, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, sure. The first book was so cringy, hated the romance, like hated it. The love interest, I just wanted to punch him. And then the second book was so great. It finally felt like a real fantasy book. There was like a lot of action. Things were being planned, action was happening. I loved the group, like the circle. They were really fantastic characters that you just wanted to spend time with, so that was really good. The ending was a little bit too convenient, in my opinion, but overall, if you have read the first book and you did not like it or just were okay with it, read the second book, just push through the first like 2 or 3 chapters where it's still the same type as the first one, and then you're gonna realize that it can actually become a lot better. So this is the biggest surprise ever. I don't think I've ever been this surprised by a book. Because usually I don't go into a book hoping I'm gonna hate it or knowing I'm gonna hate it. And I really thought I was going to hate this. But I take it back. This book is really good. And I did read the third book since, and honestly I'm considering this book a standalone from now on. I would reread this, but I will just ignore the first and third book. Obviously, if you are planning to read the series, don't skip the first book because you're not going to get a lot of the things that are happening here. But if you're going to reread it, just reread the second one. And the last book I wanted to talk about is a special mention, and it is A Man Called Eva. And I don't really read a lot of like literally fiction type of books because I can find them sometimes kind of boring. They're just like slice of life, and sometimes I'm in the mood for them, sometimes I'm not. I just feel them. I feel like sometimes they're a little too like, oh, you know, this is the moral of the story, and like, but actually this one was really good. It kind of felt like a mix of the movie Up and the movie that I can't think of right now, Gran Torino. That's what I meant. So a mix of Up and Gran Torino, and just that should be enough to be like, okay, I kind of see where this is going. And you're following the main character, who is a very grumpy, sad old man, and there's new neighbors that are moving in next door, and they're immigrants, and he's kind of just not really into the whole thing, and just a lot of feels, and I would recommend it if that's something you're into. I feel like this book has been popular so far, and I do think a lot of people would enjoy it. So that's it, guys. This was my top 5 favorite books that I've read this summer. Next month I will probably have the one for fall, but you know, better late than never. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be linking the other ones that I've done in the past and other videos. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and to subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.